Hey everybody, welcome back to Tim Travels. It's Terry, your host. So, want to talk about a couple of things that came across my desk, and also kind of riff on, or maybe steal some thunder from my friend Lyle, and I'll explain that in a minute. So, I wanted to give a shout out, and this is going to sound kind of weird, but I want to give a shout out to a company, a trucking company. Oh, before I do that, let me just say this. I did a thing about how trucking companies treat drivers and how they never have your back. And a lot of people pointed out that, drivers are expendable, which is true. I used to have a chief in the Navy said you could be replaced by a bent shit can. And, so drivers are expendable. The accounts are the most important. But I still, and maybe what got me kind of irked about this was the fact that so many trucking companies have these over the top pronouncements about how awesome their drivers are and how much they love their drivers, how much they appreciate their drivers. I saw a Crete truck. The whole damn trailer said, our most important resource sits here, and it's a big arrow pointing at the truck. I've seen I saw another company had a thing where our most important cargo sits whatever many feet in front of, this was on the back door. And I'm like, well, I'm not actually cargo, but, I guess I have an issue with the double standard. It's like when you say you got somebody's back, or, you appreciate them, or they're the most important thing in your company, that can't be only when they don't do anything wrong, or they don't make any mistakes, or they don't have any problems. It's like, oh, we want to help you no matter what, unless you actually need help. I kind of feel like that's how it is. So anyway, let me get off that soapbox. But I wanted to talk about a company and share their name. Not because you're going to go to work there, because they're actually folding up the tent. They're going out of business. But how they did it is in stark contrast to how a lot of trucking companies do it, like Freon Trucking. We talked about lots of companies. Who were the big Celadon? People just find out they're out in the middle of nowheresville, and they find out that their company that's headquartered 1,000 miles away just went under, and there's no money on their fuel cards, and they won't get a check. So this company is a small company out of Denison, Iowa, and Denison there's a couple of meat packing plants there. So if you work for Prime, you might have been there. It's called Mid-Continent Trucking, and I have seen a few of their trucks in the Midwest. At the time they went out of business, which was basically a couple of days ago, I think on Tuesday, they had only 25 employees total. And before that, they had maybe 20 to 30 drivers, but that's slowly willed down. But they apparently sent out an email a couple of weeks ago letting people know that they just couldn't make it anymore, and that they were selling their equipment to an entity that's affiliated with Western Flyer Express. And I guess the email kind of misled people into thinking that maybe Western Flyer Express was just buying them out completely. That wasn't the case. Western Flyer said no, that wasn't the case. But they still did their best. And one of the comments that one of the owners, it's a couple of brothers that own the company, one of the comments they made, and this was on FreightWaves, was, we didn't want to wait till we could no longer pay our employees. you know, I guess he was saying they kind of saw the writing on the wall, and they wanted to make sure everybody knew up front what was going to happen. Everybody was taken care of. They've already, you know, they helped people get jobs. They went really, I mean, above and beyond the call of duty, even though they did the right thing, and it should be applauded, and this is how it should be done. But one thing that really jumped out at me is they were interviewing a mechanic who already got him a new job, but this guy started out as, like, I guess just, you know, washing trucks basically. And one of the owners was like, hey, let's train you to be a mechanic. And in addition to that, in addition to saying, hey, I think this kid's got something on the ball, apparently the kid needed a bunch of dental work. And you know, you see it wherever you go. And the owner of the company paid for the dental work out of pocket and wouldn't accept any, you know, any payment, you know, to pay him back and stuff. So, you know, that's a guy that, you know, you want to work for, and hopefully these guys land on their feet. And they've been in business for a number of years. They weren't just some fly-by-night outfit, but you know, they just couldn't. They just didn't have enough size to survive the way things are going now. So, but anyway, shout out to those guys that own Mid-Continent Trucking in Denison, Iowa. They did right by their people, and that's nice to see. You know, I really do think when you take care of people, it you know, it pays dividends down the road. So anyway, that's that. I was looking at an article by AAA, the American Automobile Association, and they were talking about the deadliest roads in America. And several of them I've driven a truck on. Others of them I have been on, but 5 of them really jumped out, and I've even talked about some of these roads on YouTube. And by the way, I got a load that pays quite well. It's like 400 miles, 426 miles, I think. It's going from Georgia down to Central Florida, and it pays over $1,600. So, you know, now coming out of there, I'll probably be getting like $1 a mile, but you know, I'll just kind of dollar cost average it out and hope for the best. But you know, I'm only working like 5 days this week, this pay week, I guess you'd say, and I have visibility to about $6,400 of gross revenue. So I'm pretty happy with that. I mean, especially given the circumstances right now. But so I'm going to Florida. One of the roads on this top 10 most unsafe highways, and this is for deaths per mile of, you know, pavement. I-4 in Florida. If you've driven, one of the reasons I really don't like going to Florida, and I know I'm still taking a load down there. One of the reasons I don't like going to Florida is because there's basically 3 highways. 4 if you count the the Florida Turnpike. But basically it's 95, 75, and then I-4 running between them, you know, from the northeast to the southwest. And then the turnpike kind of does the opposite, runs from 75 in the northwest to, well, it runs parallel to 95 through once you get to over to Fort Pierce, which is in St. Lucie County, Florida, and then south, Martin County, Palm Beach, Broward, down in Dade County. And by the way, I don't call it Miami-Dade. I'm like, it's Dade County. It was Dade County when I lived down there as a kid. It still is. I noticed that they changed. It used to be Bibb County, Georgia. Now it's Macon-Bibb. Like, why make it harder? Everybody knows, you know. I don't think there's another county in America called Dade County. I mean, everybody knows that's Miami, but whatever. So that's I-4. I-45 in Texas. I mentioned this place, man. That I've seen some brutal wrecks on I-45 near Houston, but basically from Galveston all the way to Dallas, it's a freaking death trap. I-10 in Arizona. I-10 in Arizona is crazy because, I mean, especially the stretch between Phoenix and LA. I know that goes into California, obviously, but there, first of all, you get out there, you get out towards Quartzsite, there's nothing out there. And people just drive like freaking maniacs. There's a video on YouTube, you could probably look it up, where there's two Swift trucks on I-10 doing the IROC Z thing where they're just kind of pacing each other, and a Fry Miller truck passes both of them on the right shoulder. And then what was really amazing to me about that video is that the car that was behind the Fry Miller truck, when he swung onto the right shoulder, they get right up on the ass of the Swift truck that's in the right lane. I'm like, there's fixing to be a 3 semi pileup, and you want to be as close as possible. But crazy stuff out there. I see vehicle fire. If there's a vehicle fire out there, that freaking thing is burning to the ground. I saw a moving van one time that completely, like, everything in it was gone. That's not a phone call I'd want to get. I-15 in California and Nevada. Goes between Vegas and LA. It's a great stretch of road. Like, there's nothing wrong with it, except people drive like maniacs. They're in party mode, either going to Vegas or coming back from Vegas, I guess. Dangerous stretch of road. And then here's one that's near and dear to my heart because I just spent the past 24 hours driving around on I-285 in Georgia. Goes around Atlanta. The problem with 285, there are many. One of the biggest problems, though, is that they don't let trucks transit Atlanta, the city of Atlanta, either on I-20, I-85, 75. So what happens is all the trucks that have to come into the Atlanta area, even though it's shorter and sometimes less traveled, they all have to get on that beltway. And it's crazy. That's one problem. One of the other big problems is 3 lanes and 4. 3 lanes and 4. 3 lanes and 4. And by the way, I train people, get in the number 3 lane. Don't get in the far right lane because it's fixing to end. Unless that's the exit you want. Okay, so that's the dangerous roads. That's 5 of them. There's others that you probably wouldn't be on with a truck, like US 2 going across Montana, across northern Montana. That's a deadly road. US 1 in Florida, which is over on the coast, East Coast. Part of it is that it's the causeway, it goes out to the Keys, but also it's just a stop and go road, like a lot of places. And then there are places where people just go crazy and, again, drive like maniacs. US 17 in South Carolina was another one. Okay, so the other day, yesterday actually, Lyle was talking about one of his trainees who is actually doing prime intermodal. And, a lot of people don't understand that prime has essentially 4 divisions, okay? And everybody knows about reefer. Everybody knows about flatbed. Most people know about tanker. But the 4th leg of the stool is prime intermodal. And prime has a lot of jobs that are essentially local jobs, like you're home every night. These are jobs in a specific geographic location. So if you're like, hey, prime sounds like it's a great place to work. I mean, Terry from Tim Travels works there. It must be awesome. but I really don't want to be an OTR driver. I don't want to drive over the road. I don't want to be gone for, 2 weeks, 2 months, whatever it is, right? I don't want to drive over mountains and I don't want to drive through the desert. I don't want to, drive through West Virginia, whatever it is, right? But the cool thing is that there are a ton of intermodal opportunities in an area that might be near you. So Lyle mentioned that his latest trainee is working in the Memphis area. And as you can imagine, if you don't know what intermodal is, it's containers and or trailers. Prime is transitioning from intermodal trailers to intermodal containers, which then go on chassis, when they're off the train so they can go down the road. But as you can imagine, a lot of these, or all of these actually, locations that Prime has intermodal drivers are in areas that have large rail yards, and in some cases several rail yards. Some just one, but some places several. So these are the cities that Prime has intermodal drivers in and operating in. Seattle, Portland, Oregon, Salt Lake City, Stockton, California, Fontana, California, Dallas, Fort Worth, Kansas City, Chicago, Memphis, Atlanta, Jacksonville, Florida, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and St. Louis, Missouri. Now, the last information I had, one of the requirements for you to drive intermodal is that you have to live within 30 miles of the rail hub. The interesting thing about that is that some of these cities, for instance, the DFW, Metroplex, right, Dallas-Fort Worth area, they have more than one intermodal yard. Same thing with Chicago. Chicago has probably a half a dozen places where intermodal it comes in and out of. So anyway, I say that it's within 30 miles. If you're within 30 miles of one of those rail yards, I'm guessing. Now, keep in mind, though, that companies tend to run with just one railroad. So I know, but I do see Prime on a lot of, I see Prime on everybody's trains. So maybe Prime isn't that picky. I think, like JB Hunt is contracted with BNSF. So the vast majority of JB Hunt goes on BNSF. And sometimes you'll see trains that are just like 100 containers, 200 containers of JB Hunt. But anyway, you can do this job as a company driver or a lease operator. And I think, but you'd have to get with the intermodal people. But I think you could even lease just a day cab, because a lot of the people that you see, that I've seen in Salt Lake City, Fontana, places like that, they're just running day cabs. So you don't have to have this apartment on wheels if you don't want it. Now, I don't know if there are some, and you do deliver these containers when they come off at the rail hub. You take them to the consignee, the receiver, whatever you want to call it. I don't know if there's some that are so far that you would need to have the sleeper. I know when I was at Knight has a part of Knight's called Ports, P-O-R-T-S, Ports Group. They're the ones that do intermodal at Knight, but those guys all had sleepers, because they'll take a container of meat from Kansas all the way to Los Angeles or something. So those guys can be out or to Vegas or whatever, because they had Ports Group in Vegas, they had Ports Group in Fontana, I think they had some in Texas. They didn't have any on the East Coast that I knew of. But anyway, if you're looking for a local job, but having the benefits that you get from being at Prime, big organization, training, you know, that you can get your CDL, maybe think about that. If you know, if you're like, you got family at home and they're like, yeah, we don't want you gone for 3 weeks at a time, you can just get up in the morning, go to work, and come home, you know, in the evening. So so anyway, that's something to think about. And you could just go to like Prime/Intermodal and look into that stuff. So anyway, just wanted to share that. Thanks to Lyle for kind of prompting me to think about that. But anyway, be safe. Wish me luck down. Actually, I won't be on I-4 tomorrow, or maybe I will. I know I don't have to go on I-4 to get my delivery made, which is dropping at 6 in the morning. So anyway, I will talk to you soon. Be safe. Bye.